I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, here we are.
Here we are.
Square in 2023.
2023.
I still can't. I don't understand. I mean, 2023. I remember writing 1997 on Ziploc bags, and it just doesn't seem very long.
I mean, the older you get, the quicker it goes. I can tell you that for sure.
Time flies.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. 2023, and here we are at the table talking about what our favorite stuff. Wildlife management.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, and this week we're going to, I think the topic is, it's just a fascinating subject to me. And this year, we're going to talk about coyotes.
Yeah.
And we've got well, let me go ahead and introduce. We got Jon Collins on here, who's from FOXPRO, and we need to
A lot of horns for him.
the
There it
horns
is.
for him. And I mean, this guy is a professional coyote.
Yeah.
So, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How about you all?
Well,
Wonderful.
yeah, we are. We're right here sandwiched in between some of these shows, so we got all this, the pressure of having to travel and all that sort of stuff. Some of us do, others of us don't.
Oh,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
some of us got to stay here to finish deer season out. I mean, it's important for the brand.
Yeah, and the brain.
That's right.
You got to have that release. If you don't get outside at least once a week.
Yeah, especially this time of year. We'll be thinking about you, Bobby, when you're out there pounding the shows and
Hey,
making it happen.
hopefully after this podcast is over with, we'll have you out there doing some coyote hunt instead of always thinking about deer.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's what I'm here for.
And we've also got on the line is our own coyote hunter, Austin Delano.
Austin Delano.
Yeah, yep. And so Austin's done a lot of
He's been after him a long time.
Yeah.
He really has.
trapping and all that kind of stuff.
Austin takes it personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
so
those
I
coyotes
wanted
better look
to
out.
make sure he was on there. So, Austin, can you?
I've always felt a personal vendetta against them.
He has. From early childhood, I believe.
Well, it seems like this year I'm seeing and hearing more coyotes than ever.
I know I'm getting a lot of pictures. Sure are.
I finally got a few Spartan cameras out and figured out how to hit that button to get that video. And all these pictures of one coyote, you hit the video button, it might end up being 6 or 7 on there.
Coming by in a pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dudley had that video that we posted on our Instagram page of.
That came from your farm?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't tell him where it was.
Yeah. All right. So John, I'm if you'll be patient with us, we got one more thing we got to knock out. Mac, this week's episode is brought to you by who?
None other than the Gamekeeper magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like that thing.
I've heard of that.
I have too.
So the winter issue
Yeah.
is in the mail right now.
The one with the pintail on the cover?
It is. It may be arriving. It should be in people's mailbox pretty soon.
Good.
Oh yeah, a lot of folks I think have been commenting and saying they received it and really like it. I mean, and that magazine is just so useful. I mean, it's a great read and it's really cheap actually too. And you can subscribe on mossyoakgamekeeper.com.
Yeah, a great looking book too. You can leave it on the coffee table there. Look, there it is right there.
$25 for a subscription. I mean, you save 25% by doing it that way. I don't know why anybody wouldn't subscribe.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. John, you've seen the magazine. I know.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm familiar with it for sure.
All right. So, Mike, thank you. Guys, if they want to subscribe, they can go to
mossyoakgamekeeper.com.
Okay. Mac has got all the answers.
Yeah, he does.
He sure does. So
He's on game.
Switching to John. John, my first question for you is, do you pronounce it coyote or coyote?
I don't know what a coyote is.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in the same boat.
Except for me, I've always called him a coyote. my whole life.
He must be a Yankee.
Yeah,
He's Southern as he gets, but he does say Mississippi instead of Mississippi.
Well,
too,
he was
you know?
very influenced by the Bugs Bunny cartoons, evidently.
Probably so.
Oh, that's probably where it came from.
That's where that's where it came from for him. So, John, let's start with this. We're still deer hunting down here, but if a guy's sitting in a stand, I see a lot of coyotes, but you just briefly see them most of the time. They're either trotting or they're standing still for just a brief second. But if one gets by you, is there what would be your tactic to try to bring him back and maybe get a shot?
Well, I mean, if you're in a tree stand and if you're somebody that would take the opportunity to take a coyote while you're deer hunting, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do to call them back in. One, you can just use your mouth and do some lip squeaking, but not all coyotes can hear it. It all depends on how far that coyote's off from you. But, as far as FOXPRO goes, the company, there's all kinds of stuff like we've got as far as mouth calls that you can put in a pack, that you can put in your jacket pocket, whatever, closed reed. We got mouth operated calls, hand calls, mouth diaphragms, open reed style calls, closed reed style calls that you can make bird sounds, rabbit sounds, cottontail distress, baby cottontail sounds, jackrabbit sounds, snowshoe sounds, whatever you want to throw out there you think you might be able to call that coyote back up to you.
So what do you do? Can you give us an example?
Well, that's one thing about coyote hunting. Coyote is there's a lot more to it than just blowing on a call most of the time. And certain times of year, certain sounds will work a lot better. But hey, coyotes got to eat every single day, right? And one of their big meals is a cottontail rabbit. Clear across the country, they love cottontail rabbits. So if I was in a deer stand and I saw a coyote and wanted to get him closer, and if I had one of our hand calls in our pocket, I'd pull it out and try to make some baby cottontail sounds or adult cottontail sounds and get that coyote close. If you're a archery hunter and you're running mouth calls, you can call them things up within feet. I've killed coyotes at 6 steps before. Calling them in 6 steps, 9 steps, no telling how many under 10 and 12 steps. So it's no problem getting them close to you. So like I said, if they're on their feet, say mid-morning or something, where you're in a deer stand, they're probably still on their feet because they're still hungry. So throw some sound out there to them, see if you can't drag them in there close.
Lanny, when I think about that, I mean, this looks and sounds like something right up your alley. You like getting things in close, critters in close.
Well, I tell you what, personally,
the intensity of it.
It's been, I must have not a very good hunt ability for coyotes because I can't blink at them if they don't run off. You talk about shooting with a bow. I've been trying to shoot them with a bow my whole life. Every time I look at my arrow, he gone. Yeah. So, but I had never tried to call them. It's just been by chance. But have you been working on your lip squeak?
No, I have not.
I'd like to hear it.
I don't have a lip squeak. I've got a little handheld thing that I have blow at them. But
okay.
I've killed a couple this year.
You did?
I mean, it seems like every time I go, I'm running into coyotes. But so, John, are they bad about trying to get the wind on you?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's every move that a coyote makes is dictated by their nose. I mean, everything. While they're out looking for their family group, searching for their family group, they'll use their nose, looking for their next meal, just moving from point A to point B. Everything a coyote does is dictated by its nose. And they can smell you. And that's one of the things too. If a coyote is downwind of you, your hunt's over for that coyote. I mean, and of course they'll circle. That's the first thing they want to do. They want to circle to the downwind side of that sound. So it's one of those things you've got to be able to shoot them and get them killed before they do get downwind of you, or it's over, and your chances of calling that coyote up in the future are very slim. It's almost like, I know you guys are mossy oak, and see that big old strutting gobbler right there behind you. Y'all know how tough it is if you mess up on a big longbeard a time or two. What happens? It gets call shot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's almost impossible to call that bird up. And man, it's almost 10 times as bad with the coyote. The coyote's very smart. I'm sure all you guys have had dogs. If you get on a dog for doing something wrong, your tone of voice that you use to getting on a dog or whatever, when you get that tone in your voice again, you'll see them dogs cower down. They know they're in trouble. And so they remember sound. So if you mess up on a coyote with say a rabbit sound, and then, weeks down the road, you see a coyote out, and you try to blow on the same exact type of rabbit sound, make the same tones, you'll see that coyote cower and take off the other way. And guess what? That's probably the coyote you messed up on.
Wow. Dudley, you got a question?
Well, I'm down here in the South where we seem to just have trees everywhere. And I see folks on these videos hunting coyotes, and I see a lot of open ground. Do you have any tips for us in the South to, get your setup started to where you are going to decrease your chance of getting smelled and all that stuff?
A lot of it has to do, if you're talking about purely coyote hunting, not doing it from a tree stand, you're just going out trying to call coyotes. They're just like anything else. Scouting can really pay off for you. You need to know where those coyotes are at, where they like to cag up for the day, where they like to go at night to hunt, where you can catch them coming in from their feeding areas to where they bed up. All that stuff can come into play. So, scouting is definitely key. I guess you really got to decide whether you're going to daytime hunt them or nighttime hunt them. If you're going to daytime hunt them, get them scouted where they like to bed up for the day, and you'll go in and crowd those areas. Like if you got a certain draw, a certain thicket, certain ridge top, whatever that these coyotes like to hold up in, you'll get your wind right to approach that area, crowd it, get to throwing some sounds out there, and get those coyotes killed.
Okay. I like that. And like I said, I've been getting them on my cameras a lot lately, and I had never thought about it, but there was a couple of areas where I was getting a lot more photos than others. And it's just no different than the way we hunt deer. You can scout them with your cameras and see which way they're going at different times of the day, when they're coming out.
It's a lot of people don't think about that with coyotes, about scouting them out with trail cameras. But, if you're seeing a pattern with coyotes on a trail camera, take note of what time of day or time of night they're crossing through there, whether they're coming from left to right or right to left, all those type of things, and really give you a lot of information on what those coyotes are doing. And you just got to put it into play. We was talking about earlier before we got the podcast started. Coyotes are a very impressive animal when you really get down and get to study them. They're a very unique animal. They are and can be a very tough animal to hunt because they're so smart. So you need to take advantage of everything you can to, get you advantage on these coyotes.
So, John, late in the afternoon when we're deer hunting, we start right about dark, we start hearing them howl. Mm-hmm. What are they doing at that time? Are they trying to locate other coyotes, or what's going on there?
That, different times of year, they'll vocalize more and vocalize for different reasons. Like a lot of times, especially in the fall, say those September through November time frame, those coyotes are still in their family group. They might not be like bedded up right together, but they're in a vicinity of each other, brothers and sisters and mom and dad, where they can hear each other. So a lot of times what you'll hear is them waking up, getting ready to go out and start being coyotes for the evening. And they're just letting each other know where they're at. And a lot of times they are in close vicinity. And a lot of times you'll hear, it'll sound like 20, but it won't be but 2, or 3 at the most. So, you might be thinking you're hearing a dozen coyotes, but it might just be a pair, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, man, I tell you, though, as deer season winds down, I am very interested in trying to call some of these with an electronic call.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fantastically fun hunt. I'm looking at Lanny Hayden would probably just love that.
Yeah, we should try it out for sure.
Yeah. So can you kind of walk us through what a guy needs to kind of get into this electronic coyote hunting business?
Well, all you need is a call, really. For far as that, but, decide whether you're going to be hunting with a rifle, shotgun, or both, or you really want to get a challenge, pistols or whatever. But, most states, almost everything's legal to hunt them with. But, FOXPRO, we've got a full lineup of electronic calls, good starter units all the way up and, to your higher end units. We've also got a great selection of hand and mouth calls. If somebody's looking for a budget way to get in to see if they like it, we've got a lot of affordable options out there. So, we've got everything from your basic mouth diaphragm like you use for turkey hunting that you can howl on and make different prey distresses, all the way up to our electronic units with all the options, bells and whistles.
Well, and I guess you could use some of it, some of all of them. You could have an electronic call sitting up on top of the hill that you're downwind of, and have something in your mouth ready to go if you need to get them to stop or something.
Right. That's me. I take advantage of all that. I've got open reeds and closed reeds in my pack. I've got my electronic call out there, and I've usually always got a mouth diaphragm, a mouth that I can howl on, or you do pup distresses, ki-yotes, that type of stuff. And you can use them together. You can howl on a mouth diaphragm or open reed and answer yourself back with your e-call. You can add a lot of realism doing it that way.
Oh, I'd like to answer myself back.
Oh, yeah, you do. You're really good at that already.
Yeah, did you have a question?
Well, I just, I think this is for Austin and John first. I think it'd be great to help our listeners understand the effects these coyotes can have on a whitetail population, and when they're most vulnerable
or turkeys.
Or turkeys, all of it. So, yeah, throw that out to John and Austin, really.
Well, I was talking about earlier before we got this started, predator management is deer management.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to manage a piece of ground for whitetail deer or turkey or both or whatever you like to hunt, if you don't have predator control in place, you're not doing everything you can. One of probably the best times to coyote hunt to try to control that population and really help out your deer herd and your turkey flock is to hunt them in late spring and in the summer. Your turkey seasons are out. Your deer seasons haven't come in yet. You're probably chomping at the bit. Get out there and do a little bit of hunting. Most states are open 365 days a year. So get out there in the summertime and try to call them. They're actually very, very susceptible to calling in the summertime. Now, it's hot. You're talking about hunting at night or hunting first thing in the morning or late in the evening or late in the afternoon. But during that time, coyotes have they have their pups. They've got pups in the ground. It's their denning season, and coyotes are a pretty paternal animal. They're big at protecting their young, and if you can go out there and play the right type of sounds, like what we like to do in late spring and summer, is play those small puppy sounds. Find those. They're really easy to locate. They're very vocal that time of year. You can usually go out at night and let a howl out, and you'll get a mom and dad to answer you back. And sometimes you'll even hear a whole group of pups answer you back. So you've got a den located. You can crowd those areas and walk right, get real close to them, rip out a howl. They see it as as an intruder, and then pour right in there with some baby puppy sounds, coyote puppy sounds. And man, you're talking about some dynamic call-ins. Them things will run you over. And plus, guess what else is going on during the summer? You got fawns on the ground, right?
Right.
Guess what one of the number one meals for a coyote pack is through the summer? They deer fawns. And same thing, you got little B.O. poacher coming on and late, in the summertime. All that stuff is easy meal for coyotes, and it's a really good time to hit them hard.
So you're praying, you're sounding like some coyote pups, and you're trying to get that mother or that father dog to come up there to that. They're susceptible to that. What you're saying.
A lot of times coyotes, when a pair of coyotes is denning pups, sometimes they'll have what we call helper coyotes. So there'll actually be more than just that mom and dad. There will be another old female that's dry that doesn't have pups, or a subordinate male that's still part of the group that's an adult. So sometimes you can still be calling in 3 or 4 adult coyotes sounding like a small bunch of puppies. They're very paternal, very protective. So they really come in. It's just, I take it, for instance, say right there in the next room, guys, I'll set y'all hear a toddler gets a squalling. One of you's probably going to jump up. If not all of you, go in there and see what the heck's going on, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Same thing that coyotes do.
So, John, if you're playing those cottontails squealing, and you mess up, you say you miss a coyote, say Dudley misses a coyote, that could happen.
That would probably be more like Lanny.
So,
whoa.
Could you go back in a few weeks with a distressed or some other sound, and would that coyote be susceptible to that?
That's exactly what I would do. Would go in there, set up in a total different location. Say if you're trying to hunt some small pasture field or whatever. If that's the case, at least go up and sit on a different end of it. Hunt a different wind, be able to hunt a different side of it, and play a total different set of sounds. If you did mess up with some cottontail rabbit sounds, do go in there and try to play some birds, some kind of woodpecker distress or something like that, or use coyote vocals, your howls, pup distresses, coyote fights. All that type of stuff can be very, very effective.
Yeah, Austin, did you want to chime in on what Lanny's question there?
Yeah, I mean they certainly have a major impact on wildlife, particularly the ones that we're all fond of hunting. And there's some great studies and research that's been out there done that just shows just how much of a coyote's diet that fawns make up. During the late spring going into the summer. I mean they target them pretty heavily, and it's pretty evident if you go out and scout roads, and just look at their scat. You can find out real quick what they're eating, and in May, June, July, and even September, it's pretty often that you're going to find little fawn hoofs and stuff that just shows you what they've been eating on. So it's never a bad time to kill coyotes, but that's probably one of the best times if you're in an area that maybe you've got low deer numbers and you're trying to help them out. And I wrote an article a long time ago about coyote hunting and trapping and its effects on our wildlife. And one thing I've always said is, we're not ever going to kill coyotes out. Governor tried to do that years ago and showed you can't do it. Nobody wants to. They're an important part of the whole cycle, but nobody wants a coyote doing their deer management for them. We want to be the one making the decisions on what deer get killed as much as possible. So definitely want to get out there and hunt them and trap them, as much as you can. And it's fun. If you know me, I'm a coyote junkie. I'd rather coyote hunt than just about anything. So it's a really fun sport to get into, and it's one you can do in just about any kind of weather. Like Jon's talking about, summer, spring, fall. I've got favorite times to go, but most every state is extremely liberal on their coyote seasons and the type of weapons you can use. And I spend more time poring over maps and wind directions hunting coyotes than I do trying to hunt big deer, because they're so smart. They learn from every situation, everything that's ever happened to them. They don't forget it. And that's why I've always been such a coyote junkie, is calling them up and trapping them. To me, they are the smartest critter out there. You're trying to get one of the smartest critters that God put on earth, especially in the U.S., to put his paw on something the size of a 50-cent piece if you're trapping them, or call them into a certain spot if you're using calls. And if you do that and you beat them at it, man, it's one of the best feelings in the world. It's just like killing an old, 4 or 5-year-old gobbler you've been after forever. It's like, chess match,
That's
nothing like
it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Careful now.
Yeah.
based on the popularity of this sport,
Oh yeah.
Austin has a really good point.
Yeah.
So guys, Toxie just joined us, walked in, and so I want to look at him real quick. And that, Toxie, as much as you turkey hunt, how you could think? I bet a bunch of times you've been sitting there calling to a turkey, a coyote has snuck in on you.
Oh yeah, I mean, in fact, one thing I was going to say, I'm here mostly to listen today because I love this subject. I'm fascinated with it, and I need to learn a lot more. The first thing I would say that jumped in my mind, one story was, and try to be brief, about maybe 10 years ago, 8 years, I can't remember how long ago. As you know, one of our longest existing relationships was the guys at Bent Creek. They've had a deer lodge that's been super popular and still is for 30 years, I guess, or more. Great guys, great friends, so loyal, the best at it I've ever seen. And so they were less deer, seeing less deer, seeing less deer. What's wrong? They didn't know. So one of them, Johnny's pretty prominent Auburn alumni, and he engaged Auburn in a study with the students and grad assistants and all that. Couldn't put their finger on it, brought some more in, thought they figured out, this might be it. So after, I think, the second year, they validated they were losing 75% of their fawns to coyotes.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Sure
That's
is.
insane.
That's and I mean, not to be Debbie Downer on coyotes, but that's out of balance.
Yeah.
That's out of balance. So that's how great. And then, they didn't really know what was going on. They're so, they're so like a vapor in a whisper in the night. I know when the phones are dropping at our farm here, we hear, I can remember a couple of times when they were younger, Neil especially would sleep, and Mac might have been with him, sleeping on that sleeping porch. And he said it was awful. Well, man, you could hear the phones just screaming as coyotes ran around and caught them.
Oh,
so
my
they
goodness.
just, yeah.
You remember that, Mac?
I can tell. The second thing I was going to say, since we've had a concerted, and I haven't been doing it here, and we need to, but I can only do so much. But we have had a concerted, and we've got a really, really good, very knowledgeable, just a great, classy, wonderful, trustworthy guy in Alabama. It's a friend, and he traps them every year. And so this is probably going to be the 5th year we're going to do it again. And he goes after nest predators too, but he's also really good at coyotes, bobcats, so to speak. And I can tell every year, for the first time in 25 years, I could say year over year improvements in just that kind of the attitude of our wildlife. You just see more wildlife. You see every deer you run into in a vehicle doesn't just charge away like it, someone's evil demons after. I mean, everything, you just see more wildlife. We're producing more wildlife. We're seeing more fawns. We're actually hatching more turkeys. He's twice shown me pictures of where he caught coyotes right by where they just had and they actually had it in its mouth with the remnants of it. Caught both times it was a jake where they catch turkeys, so don't think they don't do that too. So the long and short of it is they just put so much pressure on your animals. The last thing I'll say was what I was going to say first. It's Bob Dixon, God rest his soul, gave us so much knowledge and wisdom and so many funny one-liners and just the greatest wit probably ever passed through the halls of Mossy Oak. But he used to say that coyotes were the slickest thing on 4 wheels, and he was right.
Jon, I think you'd agree with that. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. And just to go right off what Toxie is saying, a coyote is either committing an act of depredation or he's thinking about committing an act of depredation.
He's kind of like Lanny.
That's just how it is. That's what they do. Coyotes are here to kill stuff, eat it, and make babies. That's what they're here to do.
Well, I can even remember but I've killed when I bow hunted a lot harder when I was younger and could stand up to the rigors of it. I've killed quite a few, but I can remember the first thing I shot, I think a predator was a bobcat, and then a fox, and maybe a bobcat or two. And I can always remember they were easing through the woods and like a little tiny sound,
lip squeak,
whistle, any tiny little noise. And the first thing a bobcat's going to do is just stop and not even move a muscle to wait and figure out what it was. So the first time I tried that on a coyote, and the second time I tried, and I'm talking about a barely audible sound. It was like I had painted his tail with turpentine. They don't wait around to see what it is. They're so smart that it's some kind of foreign noise, even when I tried to sound like a bird or something. So I learned the hard way. If you're going to shoot at one, if they're trotting or whatever, you better just take your shot.
Wow.
Yeah. You can't stop them. They just, unless maybe it's an area that they've had no pressure at all, that they are so slick.
So Jon, give us some tips. So we're two different type of hunters. We're guys that are in tree stands and we're deer hunting. And we asked you this early on, but I would really like you to get specific as to what what kind of call you would use and when you would use it, how you would use it. But if you saw a coyote slipping through the woods and he's not close enough to you, or he got in some thicket, how would you try to bring him back? What goes through your mind?
So you're saying if I'm in a tree stand or ground blind, I'm deer hunting?
Yeah, that's right. And you see a big old black coyote, and he got across the lane, and you were like, man, I want to shoot that thing. How do you get him back?
Well, you got to tell yourself, you still want to try to call that coyote and still try to, I guess preserve the hunt, so to speak, where you can still keep deer hunting after you put an arrow or whatever in that coyote. If you didn't want to blow out every deer in the country, I would stick to some type of light prey distress. Like I said, Toxie was talking about lip squeaking and all that. You can call coyotes in lip squeaking at them, just making kissy noises with your mouth or, on your hand or whatever. They can come running up, kind of sound like a field mouse or a vole or something like that.
We need an example.
Yeah, can you do that?
The coyote kiki keckle fly down. Oh, there it is.
Hang on.
Hit it again, sorry.
Sounds just like the recording.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Stuff like that right there. That will call coyotes in, and we'll call bobcats as well. But if you that's kind of limited in range. It won't reach out for 100 yards or whatever. So, like I was talking about earlier, as far as hand calls and mouth diaphragms, you can take any closed reed call or open reed or a mouth diaphragm, keep it in your pocket or your vest, safety harness or backpack or whatever. I suggest carrying one of them around, something that you can make multiple sounds with. Open reed calls are very good for that. You can howl on them. You can make bird sounds. You can make rabbit sounds. You can make coyote pup distress sounds. I suggest carrying one of them. And the first thing I would do is let out some kind of just rabbit squall type noises, and hopefully that'll drag him in. If that don't work, you can start, hitting the tail end or the back end of that open reed call, making pup distresses, and see if that'll call him in. So you got two different sounds right there you could throw at him. I necessarily, if I was in a standstill deer hunt, I probably wouldn't rip out a big old howl, because that's probably going to put all your deer on alert. But all those type of sounds are natural sounds in the woods. So, I mean, you're not actually blowing everything up when you do that type of stuff.
I think my body might go into convulsions if I put a diaphragm call in my mouth and try to make a call other than a turkey.
So, John, specifically what I was hoping you would say is like, I'm gonna hit that for 10 seconds and then shut up.
Okay.
Yeah. Or is it longer than that? How long does it take to?
It can be 10 seconds. If you can see him and you blow on it for 10 seconds, he's liable to start coming and running right in. It's just it's kind of a hard question to answer because it's so situational. You know what I mean? If you just ready to give up your deer hunt and do everything you can to kill that coyote, yeah, I would probably blow on that mouth diaphragm or that open reed collar for 5, 6, 7 minutes trying to blow some rabbit distress to get him to come in.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to just give up your hunt to try to kill that coyote, there's a ton of stuff you can do. I'd call for the next 15, 20, 25 minutes trying to get him in there.
Can you give us some examples? Can you give us some
I can break it
examples?
down for you if you wanted.
Yeah, I would love to hear this.
Yeah.
Like, love to hear.
Well, give me a time frame. You got to give me a month because sound sequences and stuff change a lot.
Well, we're deer hunting,
so it's complicated.
It's it's late.
Well, let's say right now, but
right now. Yeah.
I'd go February because February is a time when we've got some time. We're out
true.
looking for something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. February. One thing about February across the country for coyotes are actually mating up. It's the breeding season for coyotes. So howls, female whimpers, which is a breeding type sound, all those type of sounds are going to be very effective. I'm just going to give up that deer hunt, try to get that coyote in, and say I've got open reed collar on me. I'm going to rip out 2 or 3 howls, wait 2 or 3 minutes, see if he'll show up to that or answer back. If he doesn't show up, I'm going to go ahead and just start playing. I'm going to skip the rabbit. I'm going to go ahead and start just playing different series of kis and pup distresses, just like say 30 seconds to a minute long series of that to get him to come in. And I'll probably just keep doing that off and on until he does show up and I get an arrow with him.
Have you got a howler there? You can give us a little series breakdown there.
Oh, you like the actual hearing?
Yeah, I want to hear
it. I would if I had a diaphragm or a howler on me.
But I mean, you can put FOXPRO and Coyote in the search box, and there are all kinds of things you can watch and learn from. I mean, It's like a whole different world. There's folks that are just hardcore. That's their favorite thing to do. And then there's a lot of folks that, they should be doing that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Toxie, have you had any experience with electronic collar?
A little bit.
What was it?
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty amazing how well it works.
It can be, yes. I mean,
and
like you said, there's so many variables as like, did you get to where you are without anyone noticing? Where is the cover? Where is the wind? Where are they coming from? I feel like from my minor experience is that the first thing in his mind when anything kind of alerts him at all is getting downwind of it. So if you're already close to downwind, you might not work out so good. So you just don't know when you're hunting and you have no idea where they might be. I do remember first time ever they had sent me one to try, and I was going to pick up somebody from deer hunting, and I left early because I'd shot a doe, and I just remember getting back, and I had an electric golf cart there, and I said, I'm just going to put that thing out in the road just for the heck of it and play it. and did, and nothing happened. I was watching down the long road. I could see nothing happened, and maybe 5 minutes later, I heard a stick crack. I looked to my right, and there was a coyote like 10 yards from me that had come in, just come around behind it. And of course, it blew out of there, spooked it. I was like, goodness gracious, that really worked.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And going back to what you guys are asking me, for me personally, if I was in a tree stand, see some coyotes out there, about half the time when I'm deer hunting, I'm always kind of trying to, I'm sitting there thinking, man, ain't no deer around here. Wonder what the coyotes doing. I bet I could burn the coyotes up this morning. Yep. So if I see coyotes, it kind of tugs on me to climb out of the tree stand anyway. I'm not going to call to them from the tree. If I see coyotes or hear coyotes, I'm talked into going after them pretty easily. So I'm going to go back to the truck, switch up gear. I'm getting my e-call out, and I'm going to go back in there and start calling them. And then my sound sequence totally changes. Like if it is that February time frame, I might play a little bit of rabbit in, but I'm going to let my e-call do the work. I want to rip out something, try to figure out where I think that coyote's going. Make sure my wind's going to be right for that spot where I think they're going to go cag up in. Like I was talking about earlier, you go in there and crowd that area, then I'll let out a series of howls, which will consist of 3 to 5 howls. I'll wait a few minutes, 1 to even up to 3 or 4 minutes, just to see if that coyote will respond to that. If he doesn't come to the house, I'll play some type of one of my favorite type of cottontail distress sounds or something like that. And that's the thing. We've got dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens. We got hundreds of different sound files. So we got all kinds of stuff to choose from. But then I'll play a rabbit distress for 4 to 6 minutes. If nothing shows up, I'll start playing a series of those female whimpers, some other type of breeding type sounds, submissive sounds. A coyote's language, they got all kinds of vocalizations that they use with one another, and anything can, I shouldn't say anything, but a lot of those will call coyotes up any month out of the year. But like I said, February is kind of that breeding season time. So I'm going to be pretty, female whimpers is a breeding sound. I'm going to be pretty heavy with that, mixing in some light pup distress, like a couple of them's getting in a fight. And I'm going to be closing that stand off if nothing shows up with the actual all-out coyote fight. And you all can go to our website and see that stuff. We've got several different coyote fights, and it's just snarling and coyotes crying, and it sounds horrible. I mean, it sounds like something is going to run in there and shut them up, and that's usually what happens. You usually get a pair of coyotes hard charging in, and it's pretty dynamic. And that's the thing. I am going to warn you guys on this too about the coyote hunting. It will get into your blood. I've seen many a hardcore deer hunter start deer hunting a lot less and chasing coyotes a lot more. So I'm just going to put that out there to warn you a little bit.
It sounds like, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a hardcore coyote hunter, but as much as I love turkey hunting, and turkey hunting for me is 1.5 months out of the year. But if I can be brim fishing with my buddies in July and we get done eating and say, hey, let's go try to call up some predators. I mean, that sounds like more turkey hunting to me.
It absolutely, totally appeals to me in so many ways. And the only thing holding me back is just more knowledge. One reason I rushed in here to be sure and listen, not just talk, but listen today, is because I want to know more. I think that holds back most people from just diving in, is that the average hunting guy's pretty savvy, and he realizes he can't just go out there coyote hunting. He needs to be armed with some more knowledge. And I would really hit on him and go, if you just go to FOXPRO.com or I'm sure YouTube, it's like you can get educated quick, better today than going to any seminar just by going online.
Mm-hmm. So John, what about these little decoys I see that they look like they just kind of spin and wobble? That looks like that would really take the mind out when one's coming in.
It does. We were actually I just got back when you guys first started emailing me. I was actually just past week, I was in Missouri, and that's what we was doing. I traveled to Missouri we was filming for FOXPRO Hunting TV, filming coyote stands. And we were using one of our units, X24, with what we call the X decoy sitting right on top of that unit. And man, we had the coyotes come in trying to bite that topper, what you was talking about, the thing that spins around, have a little bit of fur, have some color to it, look like a woodpecker or a piece of rabbit fur or whatever. And we had coyotes coming there trying to snatch that thing right off the top of the call. we actually, the last stand we made before I headed back to Kentucky, my home state, is we called in a pair of coyotes, male and a female. It's probably a breeding pair, just like what we was talking about earlier. First one come running in, come right up to the call, actually bit at it, did a 360 around it, and we shot, pow, hit the coyote, killed him 3 steps from the call. Switched sounds up, went to a pup distress. Since we knocked the first coyote down, here come the second one running right back in, 8 steps from the call. 2 hard charging coyotes killed within feet of the call, and it's very fast-paced hunting, very exciting. Those decoys really work. Now, I'll tell you, with the decoys, you better be ready to shoot one on a run, because they've already heard that sound. They think something's dying or something's in trouble. They come rushing in, then they get that visual. They're locked in. Just like you said, you can almost stand up on them at times when they get locked into a call and a decoy situation. It can really, really make for some dynamic coyote call-ins, and bobcats too. Bobcats really like a motion type decoy to come on into them.
Well, one thing I think's worth mentioning is, when you're going to set up, let's say you're going to go call coyotes specifically. We're not talking about hunting them out of a deer stand, but if you're going to go call coyotes somewhere, I approach it just like every thicket, every block of wood, every ditch can potentially hold coyotes. So when you're going to set up somewhere, you got to keep that in mind. If you're a turkey hunter, think about it like every piece of ground that there's some timber or brush in could have a long beard in there. You're not going to go charging through every bit to go call one field. So make sure you're not stomping through a bunch of good coyote habitat to go call a field just because the wind seems right for it. So you got to think about it a little bit more broadly than that, because you'll get lucky every once in a while, but if you want to consistently call them up, you got to think about everywhere where you're going to park the truck at, how you're going to get into the certain field. And, that's one, I've always been a huge fan of hand calls, and I love using them. But one of the biggest advantages, like we're talking about using the electronic calls, is getting the sound out away from the caller. Because if you spend much time doing it, sometimes you will have, like Tyke was talking about, that coyote just run in on the top of you. I have had coyotes come from 500, 600, 800 yards out, and you haven't blown a call in 10 minutes, and they will go to the exact spot where they heard that sound coming from. I mean, they can pinpoint it uncannily. So you got to be able sometimes to get the sound out away from you. That way you might have to make a little bit of an adjustment in how you're set up to get the coyote killed. Or if you call in a double, you call in a triple, and you got multiple shooters to be able to get all the coyotes killed. Having that electronic call, even if it's just 50, 60, 80 yards away from you, especially with a decoy right there beside it, if they come from a long way away and they pinpoint on that sound, it takes the pressure off of you needing to move a little bit or something to make an adjustment. So that's one of the biggest advantages to the electronic call sometimes, is being able to get the sound away from the caller, where it's coming from. That way you can get a good kill, because so many times they'll come blowing out of brush really close to you. And another thing, if you're setting up to call coyotes, don't turn that volume up all the way. If you're in a tight field and there might be coyotes less than 100 yards away, you don't want to have that sucker on full volume. Just give it a little bit of light calling, shut it off in the first minute, see what responds. If nothing comes, and 2 or 3 minutes later, go at it again. But you don't want to blow the whole woods out with high volume right when you get started. And, I hunt a ton of row crop fields, cotton fields, corn fields. They're all cut. They're low to the ground this time of year. If I don't have a great wind, I'll make sure my wind is blowing out into those fields. That way, when a coyote responds, he's got to get out in a big, wide open field before he can catch my wind. And by that time, I'm going to either stop him or try to kill him on the run. Because like we were talking about earlier, they will 99% of the time, if they're coming into a call, try to come in downwind if they've got the time to do it. So pay attention to how you set up, because there's so many times a guy's going to get out there and try to call up a coyote, and he probably does, but he never sees it because he didn't set up right. So there's a lot of thinking that's got to go into it if you want to be able to call them in and kill them consistently.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Sounds fun.
So, Jon, can you talk about, and we'll get Austin's thoughts on this as well, is there a rifle caliber that you guys prefer, that you think is the best one if you're just specifically hunting for coyotes?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely stuff that's better than other or more suited for coyote hunting. You know, if you're somebody that's got, you know, a lot of deer hunters and you just have deer rifles, of course, all your deer rifles won't kill a coyote, right? But if you wanted a, you know, predator specific type caliber, your 223s, 22 250s, 243s, 6 Creeds, all that stuff in that range are, man, they're great. I mean, they'll knock down every coyote that's ever walked. So, and you know, one thing is there's no sense of going out there and shooting a 7mm Magnum. It's going to, you know, twist your chin off every time you shoot it, when you can shoot something like a 22 250 that, you know, you don't hardly feel any recoil. So you might as well shoot something a little bit lighter. They're going 22 250 is going to kill them just as quick as a 300 chin twister. So
chin twister, huh?
Well, I'm thinking more about a shoulder blade breaker too.
Yeah, I'm thinking about my pocketbook. I'll probably reach for some 223. You know,
yes, sir.
I would bet you most reasonable deer rifles, you would just have a different a different load specific to that. It might be faster, flatter, and not as heavy, and have the same rifle potentially if it's not a big deer rifle.
Yeah. So Tasha, when you're turkey hunting and you yelp and you see a coyote at a distance, does it turn into a coyote hunt at that point?
Not much, because I'm usually, if I'm on turkeys, I'm
on turkey.
Yeah, and I'm not like you said. I might deer hunt or anything else, but not turkey hunting. I wouldn't sacrifice the hunt. Now, what I was going to tell you, I do have one story hunting with Daddy about 5 or 6 years ago, and in fact, he was with one of the guys that's worked for us that was close. Gary was sitting with him, so I was back behind him, and I really couldn't see him. I was in some CRP that was kind of thick. They were in the edge of some open woods, but I was back behind them, say 50 yards, calling, trying to be, out of sight, and I looked up, and here's a coyote coming right to me down an old road that was through there. And, of course, the turkey's gobbling out in front of them, and I didn't want to spook the the coyotes back over the turkeys, and I didn't want to, so I just didn't do anything, and it kept coming up the road towards me, and it got like maybe less than 10 yards. So I pulled my hat off, and discreetly, of course, immediately it stopped, looked right at me, and I waved my hat at it. Because I thought, where it is now, it'll bolt the opposite direction and won't mess anything up. And it just kept looking at me. And I waved my hat again, and it just put its head down low to the ground and started coming closer.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so, anyway, then I got both my hands, and I kind of got off. I was laying down. I kind of got up to try to get up on my knees to look a little bigger, and it stopped and looked at me again. It looked over its shoulder. Here comes another one.
Ooh.
And it's to the right, and gets over here maybe 90 degrees to the other one, and they're both within 10 yards, and they're not running off. And so I'm getting nervous, and I didn't have a gun either. Obviously, I'm calling for my dad. I have no gun or anything. And so here comes a third one and goes all the way around the second one. One's right in front of me, one's 90 degrees. This one's circling just past the one that's 90 degrees, and it's coming around behind me, and all of a sudden hits my wind, thank goodness, and bolts and runs off. The one to the right bolts and runs off, and the one that came up first looking at me just keeps looking at me like that, and just kind of walked off disgusted to join the other ones. And I don't know what would have happened.
Oh, wow. John, what do you think would have happened?
You better picked up a sharp stick, get to poking.
You must have looked delicious.
Yeah.
I guess I sounded
yeah,
delicious.
No, you sounded delicious.
But
if you were low, too, they could see that movement.
I mean, I made sure they knew I was a human.
Of course you were camouflaged. I mean, there's no way they could have seen any other part of that.
But these are coyotes that are never harassed, never hunted, or around. It's right on the city limits of town, and I feel like they're more dangerous than stuff that's been hunted a lot and has been harassed and are really, really wild. These were not. And in fact, we've not shot them out there, but, in the day Daddy was able to drive out there and look at his farm all the time, he constantly telling him about seeing coyotes, just stand there watching him drive by in his truck,
Hey, John, let me ask you this before I forget. Do you, as much as you travel around, do you encounter wolves at all in any of these northern states or anything?
Did you ask if I encounter wolves?
Yes.
I have in the Northwest. I've heard them at night. I've come across their tracks, but I've never personally caught a wolf up or had that face-to-face encounter. Now, the GM of FOXPRO, Mike Dillon, and another employee, Al Morris, was in Montana, I think it was 2 years ago, making coyote stands. Guess what? Great big old wolf met up with them face to face. So they can be called in for sure. They're out there.
What about the old coy wolf?
You know, I've heard about coy wolves my whole life, and you know, I'm sure it's possible that they mix. You hear about that, coy wolves, coy dogs, all that type of stuff. But I don't know. I'm hunting coyotes.
Yeah.
How I saw.
I'm not a biologist that could tell you, you know, what percentage is, you know, wolves and coyotes and stuff like that. But, you know, you do hear that term for sure.
So I saw on one of your YouTube, you got real excited about killing a black coyote. Does that happen very often?
In some states, southeastern states, they can be common. Not overly common, but you hardly ever see them like west of the Mississippi. Seem like guys in Oklahoma will get on some black ones every once in a while, but all the other states west of Mississippi, you hardly ever hear it. I might kill one a year, if that tells you anything. And the only state I've ever killed them in is in Kentucky. I do know South Carolina has several. I think Mississippi has some.
Yeah, they're not that terribly uncommon around here.
Right. Now, so you could go to, and I think Virginia's got a lot. Some of those Carolinas, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and down there in your all's area, I think they can be common. But in a lot of states, you'll never see them. You'll never see a black one in Wyoming or Colorado or Montana, those type of states. So black ones for us is a treat. I always call them the Boone and Crockett of the coyote world because they are rare. They are. You know, it's a melanistic coyote. What it is.
We just from trail cameras, we see them more and more. That's for sure, two different ones were here. One of them got shot. For sure, two on our farms in Alabama, and one of those got shot. Tom killed it. So, you know, I went from never seeing one to seeing one, and then say 5 years ago, and then last year, I know of 4 different ones. Well, 2 of those are dead, but
yeah, it seems like if you've got an area that has black coyotes, year after year after year, you'll seem like you'll have 1 or 2 black ones that'll be in the area. It's almost like you can have a whole family group of coyotes. Say that female coyote has a group of 3, 4, 5 coyotes. If they're in that area, it seems like there'll be maybe 1 out of that litter every year that's black, and the rest of them will be regular colored coyotes.
You know, they say it's a mutation, just like the piebald deer thing. But yeah, there are certain areas that just consistently people see more piebald deer than others. And so there's got to be something genetic about it.
Yes, sir.
So, John, I've just got one more question, and I'm going to let the rest of these guys ask it. I've kind of gone through my whole list here. But when you talk about coyotes denning up, are they denning in the ground? So are they digging into a creek bank or?
A lot of times they will. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, we found dens. It's just in say a blackberry bush on the edge of a hayfield or something, or a pasture field. But a lot of times they want to put those pups in the ground, especially at those early stages of pup life. That's about the only time they actually use a den. You know, late summer through February, they're not using a den, but come March time when they're starting to have pups or thinking about having pups, they'll go in and start cleaning those den sites out. And when they're ready to drop them, yeah, they'll actually put them in the ground. A lot of the coyotes will.
I see so many.
They're a cool animal. They really are. When you really get to digging down and learn about them, they're a neat animal.
I wish I knew there's so many holes in the ground around here, and even all these places, and you see them all the time, and fresh dirt being dug out of them. How do you know it might be a cow? I guess you could see if there was enough fresh dirt to see a track, that would give it away, but I never do. And looking at them, what it actually is, and what could there be besides coyotes? I guess armadillos have holes.
Foxes, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
They'll take over a fox. Say a fox dug a hole, had a fox den. You know, they'll take those over. They'll do it in brush piles. Like I said, I have seen it just right out there, not a hole, just have them right out there in an open field. Even
we used to have
I've seen them several times on a pond dam.
Yeah, we used to have a lot more foxes than when I was a kid. They were everywhere. I rarely see them much anymore. I don't know if coyotes had anything to do with that or not.
They probably did.
I'd say coyotes have pushed them out. They actually probably killed them.
Dudley,
John, have
another
you
question?
ever eaten a coyote?
I was going to ask
No,
that. Y'all
no.
taking all my questions.
Now Dudley's saying coyote.
Well, I feel
and you're
like
saying coyote.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be picked on. So
Or just like our kids, our grandkids say coyotes.
I've never ate coyote, but I have ate bobcat.
Okay, yeah, I've heard.
I've eaten a little bit of coyote.
Yeah, what was that at a trade show? Somebody
Yeah,
brought us
our
some
buddy
jerky. Jeremiah Doty.
Yeah, yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
Hey, if I'm probably gonna make some coyote stands this afternoon or tomorrow morning before I hit the ATA. If I kill a couple, I'll cut the back straps out and bring them to you boys this week.
Yeah.
Hey, give them to Jeremiah.
Yeah, Bobby said he wanted some.
You're going to have to overnight air them to me because I won't be there.
Yeah. Well,
Not this time.
I still can't taste anything, so I'm in good shape. So. Well, look, John, we've enjoyed having you on
man.
here, and
Look.
has
Do it
any-
again, yeah.
Yeah,
do it
yeah,
again.
we will do it again. And Lanny, did you have a question before we let him off? And
No, I was going to ask about the eat stuff.
so, John, before we
Hey,
let
just
you
to go off what you said there, I heard Toxie was talking about the education. of
Yes,
coyote hunting.
yes.
The thing is, coyotes can easily be called in at times, at certain times of year, but there is a lot more to it than just say setting an electronic call out there and pushing a button. Coyotes come running from every direction, you kill them. There is a lot of stuff that can really increase your odds. I mean, we could come on here every month and talk about different stuff because we'll use different types of sounds, different types of sound sequences all through the year. Like what I'm running this week, I might not be running the same type of sounds and sequences 2 weeks from now. And it'll change almost every month, sometimes from week to week. The different style setups that I'll use in different parts of the year, different times of year, different parts of the country. It's just such a situational type hunt. It's there's a lot of education. A lot of people need to be educated on it. And just like Toxie is saying, on our YouTube channel and stuff like that, we try to educate people as much as we can because we want to see people be successful with our product. We don't want to sell you a product and you struggle with it. We want you to go out there and be able to kill these coyotes, bobcats, foxes, whatever you're after. So tune into these type podcasts, the Gamekeepers podcast. Go check us out on YouTube and all that type of stuff. We can really help educate you on predator hunting and really up your odds.
That's great. Yeah, I just had one other. This is my Mossy Gamekeeper hot tip of the week. So, for perspective, I'm thinking about predators. I'm a big fan of someone who can trap or hunt and, bring that back in balance, so to speak. It doesn't, I'm not trying to wipe anything out, but my tip is there's so many. I'm trying to recruit people because I don't want to just, have my place better. We're here for this whole country to get better in the wildlife. So, and we're recruiting people to do good things. It could be planting trees. It could be planting native plants. It could be doing whatever. But, we need, the point I'm getting at, we need more people, predator hunters. We need to grow the sport. It's been going along a long time and it's getting more and more popular. But I was going to say, I saw Bob, again, to use his name because he gave us so much, do it a few times. He could, if he was still alive, he'd probably have a whole band of it out there. But he would use the fact that he did some predator hunting to get on people's property to hunt. As hard as it is and as expensive it is for people to find hunting places today, I would tell there are some people out there that could learn and get good at this, offer up, could be someone with a cattle farm, someone just doesn't like them on their place or whatever. You may gain access to some great hunting just by doing the predator hunting for someone. So, especially for deer hunting. And if that's the case, I would say get good at it. And what does it hurt to knock on the doors or people in your area that it might gain you some hunting property, and as expensive as hunting leases in, I would say that would be a bargain.
Excellent point.
Yeah,
And
it sure is.
100% the truth. I mean,
It would make a difference to me. Now, I'm not big on granting permission. Let's face it, they're laughing about that. But I can tell you, if you wanted to,
I was going to say, can I go? Kill some?
Well, I'll say if you wanted to turn my head in that direction, the number one thing you could do would be trapping or predator hunting.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's good.
for sure.
Really good point. So, John, before we let you go, we always ask our guest a trivia question. And if you get this right, one of our listeners who has left a review will win a prize. So I want to turn it over to Mac Thatcher.
Hey, John. So you're playing for Jess Warner, and this is a true or false question.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, can I go ahead and you say Jess Warner?
Yes.
Jess, I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and apologize up to you up front.
Yeah. So the prize is a Gamekeeper Fieldwear fleece vest. So this is a true or false. During the Lewis and Clark expedition and afterwards for many years, coyotes were referred to as prairie wolves. True or false?
I do not know for sure, but I would say probably true.
Oh, yeah. That's
he got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there for a long time, that's what they were called. Yeah, so I need to. So Jess, you win the prize. Mac, thank you, good job there. So Toxie, I didn't get to ask you. Do you say coyote or coyote?
He's already said.
I probably say something different every time. That's kind of the way I do things.
Yeah, so
I say both.
Yeah.
Coyotes.
Evidently, I do too. But I thought I said coyote.
And I kind of, because of the kids, the first one that did it was so cute when it was a little bitty thing was David Hawley. But then even my granddaughters now, and they call them, we say something, they call them coyotes, just like cows. Coyotes. Papa heard some coyotes by the pond. And so I might just call them coyotes.
There you go. Well, John, thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to doing some more stuff with you in the future.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having us on, for sure.
All right. We'll tell everybody they can go to foxpro.com and check out John and his.
Go foxpro.com.
Yep. Okay. Now, that's perfect.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
And we'll have it in our show notes so guys can check that out. So thank you, John, so much.
Thanks, John. That was good.
Great job.
Wow. It does seem like, it's something I think I would really enjoy doing. I've never done the electronic call.
Well, I think the hunt would be fun, but, knowing the impact you're having on our more desired species, that pushes me over the line for sure. So.
I'm seeing more of them than I ever.
Oh, there.
No
Look
doubt
at your
about
trail
it.
cameras. It'll tell the picture.
Yeah. And to your point, too, if you probably go back and look at the video on most of your coyote pictures, there's more than one.
Probably so.
Yeah, I think you said that. I'm like, oh, my God. I've only been getting a picture of one. There's no telling how many are really out there right behind them. So.
Right.
It's amazing how slick they are.
They've out-slicked me for a long time.
Yeah.
It just sounds like something fun to do. And like Toxie was saying, there may be a track that you don't think you're going to get permission to hunt deer or turkey on, but if you go say, hey, can I try to call in some coyotes? They may say yes, and then you may earn a right to.
Maybe.
It could.
So,
Yep.
I'm thinking.
Today's
day and age, anything legitimate you can do is a big deal.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So look, guys, I'd like to just kind of hit the pause button for a second. Okay. And so in our community in the last few days, we had it was a tragic loss. And I'm looking at Tox, he's hurting. I can tell it, but I just think that we ought to say tell the Bryan family that we're thinking about him. It's Mr. George Bryan passed away, and Tox has had a long relationship there. But at the very the Mossy Oak golf course, and there's just so much. And Tox, can you say a few words? Or
I wouldn't know how you could say just a few words. To be honest, it's been tough. They're having the actual funeral, not just a ceremony, at the Mossy Oak course on Wednesday, which is 2 days from now, and the family's asked me to speak. So I take it as the highest honor and the highest responsibility to do that. It's tough. I don't want to – I hadn't ever gotten teared up on a podcast before, but his influence on me goes way back before I ever even met him, because – he is who my dad walked alongside and worked alongside in building the whole Bryan Foods business. And so he's the one that said something to Daddy about, hey, why don't we see if he wants to come to work for us? I'll bring him on board. I want some local, family related to us, young people to go through. And, I'm going to put them through extra management and training. So, I got my shot at life, and my MBA was at Sara Lee because of George Bryan, 100%. And because of that, the whole idea of Mossy Oak was born. So it goes back, his contribution to all this. Not to mention, you could go on forever and ever, the legacy of the man and what he's done and all the awards. But I'll say this one thing. He probably has more friends globally than anybody I've ever known. And for being such an icon of a guy, he's the most caring and down-to-earth person. You spend time with him. I'll spend sometimes 3 hours in a car or truck on a ride with him, and you get out and you think, man, I'm pretty special. I got a lot going on, and it's not hardly ever a word about himself, He's just that kind of selfless person. He's left a mark on forever. And then this whole miracle of the Mossy Oak course, I encourage everybody to just kind of go to that and look at the pictures of what's been done here. It's, which just in a few years is one of the top courses in the country. And it's due to his vision and his, he had that ambition. And I say it all the time, how did he do all this stuff? He's a brilliant guy. He's a great leader. He's had, of course, exquisite training in the world of business through his career at Sara and stuff. But he's an artist, and what he did every day of his life since he started these golf courses is he got up every day and he painted. And they started somewhere, and it just got better and better and better and better over time until just recently, Golf Magazine voted the #1 course in the state of Mississippi is now Mossy Oak, just like 4 or 5 years old. And the #2 rated course in the state, right with it, is Ole Wiley. And both of them are in Little West Point. So what he's done, could go on and on, is immeasurable. And hopefully they hear this. I got to see him the last night when I knew that was it. I went to the house with a great friend of mine, Boyce Adams, and got to whisper my love, and he's my hero. And Wilkes was like, squeeze my hand if you can hear him, Daddy. And he squeezed his hand. So
that's awesome.
Man,
That's
it
great.
was a surreal experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing but love. That's one thing I'll say. Read Corinthians. He was all about love and love of people.
He treated every person he met like they were important people.
He sure did.
Absolutely.
Every single person.
Everybody. We had Dudley included, Greg Briggs, Tom, Lanny. I mean, it got Bill obviously serving on boards and stuff. A huge amount of people here at this company contributing and being a part of getting that course and getting going. And it didn't matter where they, if they were, working in the warehouse or they're an executive, it made no difference to him. They were all equal. Just, it's a great lesson for people to think about, I know that old saying, what would Jesus do? But how does God look at people? I mean, I'm no important than anyone else. And that's the way George was. I mean, to a degree, as much as humanly possible, he, just like Dudley said, he cared about everybody. And boy, what a legacy if you could leave one, through our walk in Mossy Oak with people, is like spread that kind of, love through the world, and treating everybody with care and grace. He's the guy to go look up to about it.
Yeah, he is. Well, I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your eyes. You're hurting.
Yep.
And I know the family will appreciate hearing the words you just spoke about him, and everybody feels that way.
Yep.
I'm kind of looking around the room, so I think, look, Dudley, we let's end on that note right there. Let's kind of tribute to Mr. Bryan.
Absolutely.
What a great, it's a great guy. He was, my wife worked for him for a while, and she just had the utmost respect.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing, and he loved this brand. He loved it so much. I mean, his wife Martha would say all the time, he just adored everything going on at Mossy Oak and what we're about. He had such an impact on it in these later years.
Well, I think he was proud of you. I think you won't say that, but I think that's a lot of what was going on there, because, he watched you do it all. So he really did. So, look, guys, Lanny, I'm looking at you. Let's go kill some coyotes soon.
Yeah, save the
we
fawns,
need
save
to
the
do that.
poults.
So I'm gonna look. We're gonna get one of these FOXPRO units, and we're gonna give it away to our
give it away to our founder. Isn't that what you're going to say?
And the
we're
winner
gonna try
is
it first. We'll try it first, but then we'll give it away to some of our listeners. So, but I'm just super impressed with their equipment and John and all those guys. So. It looks like something that'd be a lot of fun come February when
missing the boat out there, folks, if you don't get on board with this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm not. I can just tell I'm gonna struggle being a trapper, but I think I would really enjoy doing this.
You definitely. I won't go. I won't beat you up on there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm looking at Mac. You got anything to add? We got Richie back over here, guys, so we're proud to see that.
He stayed away.
Hey, look at there.
He did. And all right, Lanny, good to see you. I know you got folks in town. You fixing to travel or go leave, but glad you showed up.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Bobby.
I didn't know you were leaving. Wow.
I'm not leaving. I'm just going out to your place.
Oh, okay.
All right, Dudley, you got anything to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, well,
It's
say
a good
goodbye,
one.
Dudley.
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Mac.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine. And don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.